Hello and welcome to the WCS Sports Connection Show. I'm Tate Matthews, filling in for the doctor, Jeremy Qualls. He's out on assignment today, I believe some new teacher in-services. So got Coach Will Hester, head football coach of the Nolensville Knights, athletic director in studio with us today. Coach, good morning.
Thanks for having me, Tate. I appreciate it.
Glad you're here. We are 3 Fridays away from week 1 games of the 2017 season. Do you feel like it's gone by pretty fast, not going by fast enough, just right? Tell me about
it's flying
from the
by.
Football coach's perspective, how's it going?
It's flying by. It'll be here before you know it. Seems like we just got out of school last week and summer's already over pretty much officially for all the football players and band participants and girls soccer players. So the season is upon us.
Everybody's full speed ahead. Kind of walk us through real quick for those that don't have a high school athlete. So we came back from the dead period, I believe July the 11th. I believe that's correct, right? So you all can start that day. First week, though, nothing but just
helmets. We could be in helmets all of June, but helmets that first week. Then the week of the 17th, July 17th, we actually got back on the 10th. But the week of the 17th, we go helmets and shoulder pads. You got to get 3 days in that week called the heat acclimation period.
Right. Now 3 days, you have 5 days to get in 3, or I guess really 6.
Yeah, you have to get in a minimum of 3 days.
That's right. You don't have to go all 5 in helmet and shoulder pads. But if you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday helmet and shoulder pads, that doesn't mean you can go to full pads Thursday, Friday.
Correct. You can't start any full padded practice until the 24th,
Gotcha.
Which was last week. But, yeah, you had to go at least 3 days, and it's every kid. So if you have a kid who was sick or missed because of the dentist appointment or something like that, he has to catch that day back up. So each kid has to have at least 3 days.
As a head football coach, athletic director, do you like that? It's what is called the acclimation period. Obviously, you're probably doing a lot of heavy install on some of your passing game and things like that. Maybe your defense. You can't really work full go, but a lot of install during those first 2 weeks. The first week's a lot of passing, 7-on-7 type things. You hosted one. You like that as a head coach? Do you think that's the right way to do it? Do we have it right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got it the way we need to have it. I mean, the kids obviously need to be eased in. This year we've been blessed with some cooler temperatures, so it's not been as big a deal as it normally would be. But, July in Tennessee, you could be in the hundreds or you could be like we are now in the 80s. So it's good to get the kids used to that heat. And you're able to do just about everything in helmets and shoulder pads. A lot of people practice throughout the season just in helmets and shoulder pads because of the new contact rules that we have and all those kind of things. You're going to do more stuff in what we call a thud tempo, where you're not going to the ground and you're using dummies and that sort of stuff just to protect the kids from those hits anyway. So you're pretty much full go at that point.
The tackling wheels have become a big thing in high school football, youth football too, I guess. I know you all have some. What has that done? Does that allow you, obviously it allows you to teach the technique of tackling better, and maybe I guess you lessen the contact too, but that's become a big part of the teaching part of tackling, correct?
Yeah, you're just basically taking those hits off of an individual and putting them on an apparatus that's designed to roll and do those kind of things so that you can work on angle tackling or what we call a frontal tackle without having to have a body over there absorbing the blow.
So let's talk last week's scrimmages. We're going to talk all the WCS Sports Conference. All the teams and all the coaches in the conference. And I've always said on this show, one thing I think really neat about it, you all really all do get along. And I don't think that's that way in some other counties. It's like that, but I don't know that that's always the case. But all of you all are very competitive guys. But when you're not playing each other, you really have a good relationship amongst all the head coaches, don't you?
Yeah, and then we bounce ideas off of each other. We talk about ways of practice and time management and how we all handle certain situations. I think we have a good rapport with each other. It's a little easier for me not being in that league with those guys, so they probably talk to me a little more than they would talk to everybody else. But it's the best thing for Tennessee high school football for all the Williamson County schools to be together, and it's the best thing for the Friday night atmosphere. So I'm glad that league is back together again.
No doubt about it. All right, last week we'll start with you a little bit, and then we'll come back to it a little bit at the end. But Nolensville, Giles County. This is the second year of varsity football this is the first year of varsity football for Nolensville High School. Last year, 1 varsity game. Played the rest of JV schedule, but you went with Giles County at home last week. You're a year older. I guess you now have some juniors. Tell us a little bit about the scrimmage.
Well, I mean, first thing you notice is our guys look different. We got the guys are bigger. They've got a year in the weight room. All those kind of things. Our numbers are up. We were a team of 56 last year. We're to 80 now, juniors through freshmen. So we're able to practice a little better. Your scout teams are a little more, large, and you're able
to do more things.
Yeah, and you can work more kids, and so that's the biggest thing. We look like a football team now, as opposed to last year. We looked like a JV team because we were. So when we step on the field versus Giles County, that's a perennial power in 3A football. We look like we should have a chance to compete.
Well, and with that depth, there's a lot of things that goes into that. You have another class in the building now. You have people move in, and I know that through those two ways, a few new additions to the team that you're really excited about. So that helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've added several kids both through just moving into the area and coming to the school. We have a young freshman named Zach Larkin who's going to help us on the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. We got a rising freshman. It was an 8th grader at Mill Creek last year. Grant Reeder is going to help us on the line of scrimmage. And we've had some kids move into the area. Zach Campbell's a slot receiver, defensive back for us that'll help us. Came from Lighthouse Christian.
He runs
very well.
We always like that.
Mm-hmm. And then C.J. Ware's another transfer kid whose family moved into Nolensville from the Cane Ridge area.
So the scrimmage with Giles County. What did you like? And coming out of that, a few things that hey, we've got 3 Fridays to get this corrected.
Well, the main thing at this point of the year is to get good work in and come out healthy. And knock on wood, we came out pretty healthy. Some bumps or bruises, but nothing that's going to cause anyone to miss any game time or anything of that nature at this point. So, that's always your number one goal. You want to survive and be healthy and get good work in. And, you want to see how your team's going to respond to going against someone else, having that opposite color jersey out there and not the same, 7 or 8 guys they've been leaning on this whole time on the scout team, that sort of stuff. So our guys competed well. I think, as coaches, we talk all the time about the film's never going to be as good or as bad as you thought in person. It's always going to be somewhere in the middle. And we executed at times very, very well, and at times we struggled a little bit. I think the main thing with the contact rules the way they are, I think tackling per se is always behind a little bit, just because that's really the only time you're going to get taken to the ground full go tackling is in this 11-on-11 scrimmage period. So, I think we struggled a little bit tackling wise, but as a staff, we've talked about how we think that'll improve over the next couple of scrimmages. So, we're not as worried about that. And then, kick teams were live partially and dead partially, meaning the blocking and part of the kick teams were live, but the tackling of the returner and staying in your lanes, you still don't know where you are on that because we kind of blew that whistle dead. So you're always a little nervous about where the kick teams are at going to that first game.
Most people do that, and then obviously we've got another week of scrimmages, and then we've got the jamboree. Will the kick teams be live in the jamboree, or is the first time you're going to see live, full-out kick coverage August the 18th?
Now, I believe, we really haven't had any discussions to that effect, so I'm under the assumption that we're going to play a half of football in jamboree just like it's played on Friday night. I assume that we'll be doing everything to the whistle.
Giles County got a double dose of Williamson County's WCS Sports Conference teams last week. They scrimmaged you, and then they turned around, I believe on Saturday, scrimmaged Page as well. I don't think Page had everybody going. Went with their JV quarterback or backup quarterback, second-team quarterback. Kind of tell us, what have you gathered from the Giles County Page scrimmage?
Well, Page was out there returning quarterback who had a phenomenal year last year, and so they played some backups in that position. I think it was more a battle of them up front for both teams on the offensive and defensive line. And from what I gathered from talking to the coaches, both teams got a lot out of it.
Blackman, Franklin, 6A ball. Franklin, they know a lot of things that they're going to be able to do this year, but they've got some pretty big shoes to fill. They're going to go with the one quarterback system this year. They've got a new offense coordinator, Andrew Thomason, taking over for Dan Winfrey, which is it's exciting for Andrew, and he's going to do a very good job. He's been learning there, but for a lot of long years under Donnie and under Dan Winfrey. but first time calling the offense. So sometimes, I mean, I don't know when it was, but there was a time when you were a first-time play caller. Talk a little about what are some of the, if you had some advice to him going into the season, what are some of the struggles that a first-time play caller, no matter how many years you've been coaching, encounters?
Well, I mean, there are no magic plays. A lot of times as an offensive play caller, you try to, say your team's behind or whatever, you want to have that 14-point play or whatever it is. You got to understand that you went into this game, whatever game it is, with a game plan. You've practiced something all week. Stick with what's there, and sometimes it takes several series for things to start working out like you thought they would, but not to get impatient. I guess being patient.
That's probably the hardest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you always want every play to score. I mean, that's what you think every play you call is a touchdown. So you got to just stay patient and understand what your identity is, understand who your playmakers are, and do everything you can to get them the ball.
And they'll, as I mentioned, they went with the 2-quarterback system last year. Carter Henry will be the guy this year. So they go up against Blackman. A lot of people are picking them number 1 in 6A. I could probably see why. They're pretty talented. You saw them in the spring. I think as a head coach, you always want it to go, like you said, you want everything to go perfect. From what I gather from it, Franklin took some bumps and bruises, but they also did some things well, came out of it pretty good. I would think Coach Webb has some things they need to work on, but there were a lot of positives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you go up against a team who's got a feature back like Master T.
And let's say this, not to cut you off. I saw him in the 7-on-7. I did not. You saw him in spring. He's bigger than I thought he was. This guy is probably as good as advertised, right? He's the best back in the state.
And maybe one of the best backs ever in the state. I mean, he's legitimately a high 4.2, 4.3, 40 guy, which, people say they run a 4.3. I mean, this guy's been timed probably 6 times at camps all over the country, Alabama included this year, of a 4.3 or better. So he is as good as advertised. How he goes is how Blackman will do. Obviously they're doing some things to try to protect him and whatever. I think he only had 5 or 6 carries against Franklin the other day. But he does some special things with the ball in his hand, with or without blocking sometimes.
Brentwood Beach. From what I gather, 2-2 with the starters. Now, who knows what that really means? But what it means is they both did some things good against each other, and they both did gave up some points, right? Beach, we know they're going to be a heavy running team. I don't know if that scrimmage was scheduled because they know they're playing Franklin first week. But Beach is one of those 5A programs I think could play 6A ball, correct? I think you would got to, and they're going to play really good defense. So what have you heard about the Brentwood Beach scrimmage?
Well, I mean, I know Coach Crawford and Coach Crabtree very well, and they go against each other because they know what they're going to get out of it. It's going to be a hard-nosed, physical situation. Both teams are going to be very disciplined on defense and play good, hard defense, and probably a little bit different identity-wise. Brentwood's going to spread it out more and throw it around to Parker Bouillon and those kind of things. It was good for both teams in the fact that Beach is going to see some spread offenses that they're going to need to defend, and Brentwood's going to see some running teams that they need to defend. So it was good work for both teams. To hear that it was 2-2 about what you expect. I think Beach is supposed to have a great year and be in the top of the 5A teams this year. And Brentwood coming off a semifinal run last year, you wouldn't expect anything less than them.
Well, and you mentioned Brentwood's going to spread. They figured that out pretty early on, after about the 3rd, 4th game last year, really what they were good at and what they were going to be about. Obviously, that's going to carry over into this year. And so, as we've talked about, sometimes when you run that spread offense, that's who your defense sees every day in practice. So this was probably a really good test for the Brentwood high defense, seeing a physical running game. I would think that was something Coach Crawford wanted to make sure of.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Crawford's kind of a creature of habit. He's going to schedule pretty much the same teams year in and year out, scrimmage-wise, because he knows what he's going to get out of those teams. And, he's not going to go on a limb. He wants his team to get a certain kind of work, and that's the way he's going to set it up. You've
seen a lot of good quarterbacks, dual-threat quarterbacks, coached a lot of good quarterbacks. Have a young man who could be a great – I had to put that on him, but I think that's fair, right? Could be a great dual-threat quarterback. Shacklett, the quarterback at Brentwood High, man, he really caught fire second half of the season and really into the playoffs. I think he has a chance to have a really, really good senior year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he showed out throughout the 7-on-7s. We've thrown against him several times at 7-on-7s around, and they've looked very, very crisp and done very well. They are better at wide receiver than a lot of people give them credit for. Very athletic, some big guys. I know they're using the Dreyer kid who played some backup quarterback last year as a tight end this year, and he's made some big plays in those 7-on-7 games. So it'll be interesting to see. They've got a wealth of talent over there, and I think they're going to be right there at the end of the year.
Ravenwood went with Rossview on Friday night. Glad they were able to get that in. Coach Matt Daniels, this is his first year as the head coach. He was there last year. I was talking to him last week. I think he's got over 20 seniors, maybe 25, 26. That's amazing to me, that we were talking. It seems like every year there's two things you can count on with Ravenwood. One, they're going to have a very large senior class, and two, there's going to be a new guy at quarterback. And it's really worked out well. Obviously, you saw three of them, or three of them out of Janikowski, and then Cole Brown, and then Rapay. Last year was Morrow. Now this year it looks like Nick Stallcup, a guy who can do a lot of things well. Talk a little bit about what you heard about the Ravenwood Rossview scrimmage.
I don't know a whole lot about it other than it sounds like it was pretty even. Both teams got after each other very well, and it was a big night for Ravenwood. They showed off the new entrance to the stadium that they've had built and all that kind of stuff. So
Victory Bell. There's a Victory Bell. There's going to be a raptor that you can touch, a raptor statue, kind of like Clemson, that they can touch going in.
Yeah, I mean, building tradition is good, and I know that that's something they're want to do, and Coach Daniels is doing a good job of getting that information out there and promoting his program, and I think he's got the energy level high around the team.
Doubt.
And it's going to be an exciting year for the Raptors.
Centennial Smyrna, they moved that scrimmage up to Thursday night because of the weather. I think they were pretty smart, and from it sounds like a broken record. Centennial saw some things they liked, saw some things they didn't like. I think a lot of people are overlooking Centennial this year. I think they've got a chance to be really good. Now, they've got a lot of linemen they got to replace, but they have linemen that were there, and we're getting reps in practice last year. And Jario Wilson, he's not the biggest running back in the mid-state, but I think he's got a chance to be really, really good. Centennial Smyrna, you've gone against the Rutherford County teams through the years. What do you think Centennial was trying to get out of scheduling Smyrna as a scrimmage?
Well, I mean, you're playing another top team in 6A football. Smyrna's played in a bunch of state championship games and playoff games over the recent past, and they're going to be a hard-nosed, physical team. Coach Williams does a wonderful job over there. So, Coach Kreisky, having been at Oakland and places like that, he knows what he's getting out of Smyrna. And like I said, these coaches are all kind of creatures of habit. They like to do things that they know what it's going to look like and what it's going to feel like, and nobody wants to really go into something taking it for chance. So I'm sure Coach Kreisky knew that they would be a physical scrimmage, and he wanted to see how his kids would react.
Indy went with Overton. I would kind of up and down from what I understand. The offense from Independence kind of up and down. A little bit of, there were some flashes of brilliance, and there were some times when they didn't look so good. Breaking in a new quarterback, you would think that's probably a big part of it. And Overton, Steve Williams does a really good job there, and they're going to be organized. So, and Overton can run. So Independence, times looked really, really good. Times not so good. Got two more weeks to get ready for game week. I think there's really no doubt in our mind he'll have them ready to play come.
Yeah, nobody's going to question
18.
Coach Blade, especially with the skill kids that he has, that they're going to be able to put some points on the board. It all boiled down to the new guys they've got playing defense, how they're able to play. And, when it comes to game one, there's going to be the teams that, take advantage of the mistakes, because there's always going to be mistakes in game one. And some people are going to take longer to get used to it, playing under the lights. And, there's going to be issues in the kicking game and whatnot. So it's going to be all about who handles the adversity the best in those first games. And obviously, Independence has played for and practiced a bunch of extra weeks of the last few years, having
That's right.
played.
You can't put a price tag on that.
No,
you did it at Ravenwood.
If you think about it, I mean, they've gone to back-to-back state championship games, so that means they've at least 15 weeks of practice.
They played 3 seasons in
which those kids have got 3 seasons worth of practice in 2 years. So you can't put a price tag on that. Even for the kids that may not have ever stepped on the field that are now getting their first opportunity, those extra practice reps are a big deal.
Summit was supposed to scrimmage Antioch. They were the one casualty of the weather. How big of a deal is that when you have the scrimmage schedule? We can't make it up. We've got to move on. We've got things scheduled for next Tuesday. For this next week. How big of a deal is that for Coach Coleman's squad?
Yeah, his group is kind of a upperclassman-laden group, and they've been in the program for a while. I would think it'd be a little more important for a young team to get out there and get those reps. Probably was more important for Antioch breaking in a new coach than it was for Summit, having been with Coach Coleman for several years now. So I think they'll be fine. I think they'll just move on to the next one. They came out of it 100% healthy because they didn't have to step out there. So there are some good things that go along with it as well.
Okay, we're bringing it back. Football 101, Hester QB camp, Tate's QB camp, whatever we want to call it. We're at Nolensville now. Two things you really wanted to do well going into this season offensively. We want to be able to run the power, want to be able to run the read option. Passing game will come off of that, right? But is that kind of fair? Nolensville's offense, we want to be able to establish the run. The passing game will follow. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair for just about
Most
everybody.
teams.
There are very few elite quarterbacks that can drop back every down and throw the ball and win you football games. And when it gets colder at the end of the year and in the playoffs and all that, you got to be able to run the football. You're going to have a lead at times. You got to be able to run clock. And then, quite frankly, I think the biggest reason you want to run the football is to help your defense in practice, because you're going to face teams that what they do is they run the football.
Kind of what we were just talking about with Brentwood and Beach.
Absolutely. They're going to try to mash you in your mouth, and how are you going to be able to handle that? Well, if you don't do any of that, it's difficult to simulate that.
Right.
So I think, you help your defense by putting some sort of power run game in there to encourage your defense to stiffen up.
Okay, which one we have? This is against Giles County, right?
Right, so this is your basic power play here against Giles County.
For those that hear that word, that term on TV, see it on Madden, walk us through it. The power.
Well, basically, you're going to try to cave down one side of the line of scrimmage. You're going to use a player to be the kick-out blocker. The way that we run power, and a lot of people do, we use a backside lineman, guard in this case, to pull around and be an extra blocker at the point of attack. So in essence, you're blocking the front down one direction, and you're trying to kick out going the other direction to create a natural seam. Basically, if you look at the play that we've got here, so we've got the fullback, the H-back, whatever you want to call him, set to the weak side here, and we're going to run power to the left. So we're going to block down the left side of the line and use that H-back to kick out. So down, there's your kick, and then you run it up in the, we call it an A-gap run play. So if you look at it from the backside here, it's going to be a little easier to see. These guys are going to work down that way. We're going to get a pull from the guard. There's your kick. The running back is supposed to hug the double team, which you got a little wide there,
Right.
but still turned into a 7-8 yard gain. So that's your basic power play.
Nice job moving pumping his legs too. That's Colton Dooley was.
That's Colton Dooley. Colton and Brandon Wharton, number 7 there, split time at quarterback last year. Brandon's kind of taken over as the quarterback, which has allowed us to move Colton to running back. We joke all the time, but if this was 1950, Colton would be an All-American. But unfortunately, because of his size and things of that nature, he gets kind of overlooked. But we consider him to be a top-notch back, and we expect him to have a great year for us.
All right, a little passing game. Can we get back to that little curl-flat combo you had earlier? And the thing about when you have a young man who can run the ball, it really does. It makes the passing game so much easier to call. When things break down around you, he can make things happen with his feet, and this is a young guy. He doesn't do it on this play, but it is an option. So walk us through. You got a little curl flat here. I'm assuming this is a play you all are going to run this year.
Yeah, so we're going to run a 2-man game to the top of the formation here, the top of the screen.
So what does he see? We know it's going to the right side of the field, right?
Correct.
Right, wide side of the field. What is he reading?
So he's looking at the hole player. Basically, that's the only person he's going to read on this play. We're trying to choice the hole player. So we're going to take the outside guy and run a curl that works inside of that hole player. And we're going to run a flat route out of the number 2 receiver to widen the hole player. So basically, the width of the hole player will determine whether the ball comes back to the curl or goes to the outside. In this case, the hole player kind of stays in the middle, and both routes are there. But we do want to take the curl first because it is a deeper route. So Tim Statesco runs a nice curl there, works into the window created by the whole player's movement. And this is a window here. And then Brandon throws it off the back shoulder of the whole player there, and it's a nice gain for us.
Good decision, good throw.
Good decision, good throw.
Well, second year that you've had these guys, like we said, it's the first year of varsity football. You open up August the 18th with Fayetteville. What are some things that you need to see in the next 2 to 3 weeks to make sure that you all are ready? Because they're an athletic group, right? Alvin Palmer, a guy that's been there a long time, they're going to be ready. What are some things you'd like to see in the next couple of weeks?
We've got to tackle their guys in space. I think that's the number one thing. Moving on from the scrimmage, how do we progress as a tackling team? And then we've got to find a way to run the ball, whatever that looks like, whether it's the option because we can't block them very well, or if we can block them, then it'll be power. So we like to have the option along with the power run game because there are times where their front guys are more physical and stronger than your front guys. So you've got to, in essence, use the option to allow you to block less of those guys and expose the guy for the read portion. So,
and make them be disciplined. If they make a mistake,
absolutely.
Big play.
And so the key to us is going to be controlling their athletes in space, and then us find a way to run the ball and then not making mistakes in the kick game.
Jamboree is going to be August the 11th. It's at your place. I'm assuming you are ready. It's going to be a big turnout. It's going to be a nice event, right?
Yeah, field's already lined and mowed and ready to go. And
you spend a lot of time on that.
Look how beautiful
For those
it looks.
that don't know, he has a turf field.
So we're ready to go. I mean, we're playing 5 halves of football. I think quite possibly, 10 of the best teams in the state of Tennessee will all be playing at Nolensville High School in one night. It would be, I think it'd be an amazing opportunity for a football fan, whether you have a dog in the hunt at all in Williamson County or not, to come check it out because, you're going to see Blackman, who's the lone non-Williamson County team. Then you're going to see the 9 Williamson County schools that are playing football, in one place. So, I invite everybody to come out, start at 4 o'clock. Us and Centennial will go at 4, and the last half starts at 8 p.m. with Page and Brentwood. So
it'll be a good night of football. Brother, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. That's it for today. We appreciate you joining us on WCS Sports Connection. Dr. Jeremy Qualls will be back next week. Have a great week.
The Williamson County Fair returns August 4th through the 12th for its 13th year to provide fun for you and your loved ones. This year's theme is Country Pride Countywide. Partnering with Remembering Our Fallen, Williamson County is proud to present a photographic war memorial for the soldiers from Tennessee who lost their lives in the War on Terror. Be sure to stop by, pay tribute, and remember the brave men and women who gave their lives to ensure we could live free. Another new attraction this year is the High Dive Show, which features comedy dives, Olympic-style dives, and a fire dive. Also introduced this year is the Wild Science Display, which showcases numerous hands-on exhibits that allow you to explore the amazing world of science. You can also check out the brand new Fireman's Challenge demonstration. Returning attractions include the signature Little Ones Farming exhibit, children's barnyard, and livestock shows. And don't miss the fireworks display on Friday and Saturday nights. Competitive events such as culinary arts, creative arts, and cultural arts can all be signed up for online at williamsoncountyfair.org. Another change this year is that the Williamson County Fair pageants will be held in a new location. They will take place at the newly opened Performing Arts Center at Academy Park on Sunday, August 6th. The fair itself is open each night until 10 p.m., with the midway staying open even later. Come on out for family fun and laughs all around and show your country pride countywide.